The Obsidian Flames Battle Pass is live on Pokémon TCGL, and if you're looking for a top tier deck that won't cost you the earth, you can utilize the free Charizard EX deck to build what just won a Brazilian Regional Championship. The free list will give you the cards that are on the screen. You get this for tier 0, and most importantly, you get 2 copies of Charizard EX. This Pokemon is very, very strong, a stage 2 dark type with 330 HP. It has Infernal Rain as its ability. When it's put into play, you can search your deck for up to 3 fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. This is really, really useful to power up our attack, Burning Darkness. For 2 fire, we deal 180 damage, plus 30 more for each prize card our opponent has taken. This can potentially deal 330 damage if our opponent takes 5 prizes, and is very useful at knocking out those pesky V-Star Pokemon, but it can also use Infernal Rain to power up other attacks in your fire type arsenal. As you pursue your way up the ladder, tiers 2 and 4, you will also get copies of Pidgeot EX with the Quick Search ability. Quick Search will allow you to search your deck for any card you like and put it directly into your hand, but you can only use this ability once per turn. This means that with Charizard searching out energy and powering up attackers, and Pidgeot searching for whatever card you need to pull that combo off, you can easily get some really big damage dealt super quickly. Now, the deck that you get given for free probably won't be able to deal too much damage on the ladder, but this version definitely will. It costs a little bit to get going, but by tier 6 you should have most of the cards that you need to put this together. It has so many different ways to attack. We obviously have our Charizard EX and our Pidgeot EX in the deck, ready and raring to go. We also have some extra attackers to help us along the way. Our main attacker will be Entei V, a 230 HP basic fire type that has fleet-footed, allowing us to draw a card as an ability, and also uses the attack Burning Rondo, which when both players have a full bench will deal 220 damage and knock out most basic Pokemon V and EX in the format. I've also elected to replace the Mawile that was in the winning list with a Delphox V. This card is probably not as strong, but definitely better online, because Mawile will only come up in a few situations, whereas Delphox can be very useful a lot. It has the attack Magical Fire for 2 fire and a colorless energy, which deals 120 damage, and then you place 2 of your energy into the Lost Zone, and then do 120 to your opponent's benched Pokemon. This doesn't seem like a lot, but in combination with a couple of attacks from Entei or Charizard EX, you can set up some pretty solid numbers with Delphox, allowing you to run away with the game when it didn't look like you were taking any prizes at all. To round out our attackers, we also have Radiant Charizard, which at the end of the game will be able to take knockouts pretty easily thanks to its Excited Heart ability, reducing the cost of its attack by 1 colorless for every prize your opponent has taken. This means Combustion Blast after your opponent's taken 4 prize cards will deal 250 damage for 1 energy. Slap a choice belt on this and you can knock out a Giratina V-Star super easily. Now, something that this list does that not a lot of other lists do is it plays a very thick Arvin line as its main supporter. Arvin is a supporter that lots of people have slept on. Search out an item card and a Pokemon tool and put them into your hand. Doesn't seem that strong, but when you consider the fact that with all of the good items in your deck, plus Pidgeot to search out any other cards you need, as well as the tool card Forest Sealstone, you can actually get some really valuable search from Arvin as early as turn 1. Use your Arvin for a VIP Battle Pass and a Forest Sealstone on turn 1 of the game, going second, and you'll be able to draw a bunch of cards, set up your board brilliantly. I can tell you, it's really strong. But also, in the middle of the game, why not search out a rare candy? That card will get you into your Charizard EXs super quickly. Maybe you could search out a choice belt to get the critical extra damage you need to knock out your opponent's Pokemon. Frankly, I think this deck is super strong. I really like it. If you want to test it out yourself, it's down in the description. And what we'll do now is we'll jump across to a game and see if we can't get Charizard EX to deal some massive damage. Look at that happy smiling face. Game time, and our opponent has a Mew in the active. We'll have to wait and see what deck they're playing. It looks like another Charizard EX deck, so we'll see whether or not we can get this version to work in the mirror. It obviously depends on which variant our opponent is playing. With a Battle VIP Pass, they'll give us some information here. Looks like it's an Arceus version. So now, hopefully, I can show you why the Arceus version maybe isn't quite as as strong as the Pidgeot variant. Obviously, Arceus V-Star very, very strong in the early game, but can it do the job at maintaining a board state and beating out the version without? Mew's going to grab them a rare candy there, so they're relatively well set up. But let's take a look at our hand here. We've got an Arvin in our hand, which, as I mentioned in the intro, is going to be a very, very strong way to get our board set up. We've got a Nest Ball, we've got Pidgeot, we've got Iono, and we've just drawn into a beautiful Fire Energy as well. Let's use our Arvin to grab a Battle Pass, and we'll also grab Forest Sealstone. That way, if we elect to get an Entei V, we can potentially search out some more. I will go for a Mew. The question now, I guess, is just, do we go Entei, do we go Pidgey to potentially get the Pidgeot out? There's lots of different options here, and it depends on what we get off of our Mew as to what the best option was going to be. So let's just Nest Ball here. I think the Entei is probably fine. I may as well show off the power of Forest Sealstone. I don't even need to use it now. Depending on what we get from Mew, I'll use the Mysterious Tail first. And if I can hold on to the Forest Stone, if I get a Battle VIP Pass, which I have, that means that I can now use the Forest Sealstone next turn to grab a copy of Rare Candy, which I'm a big fan of. So now, our board is pretty well set up. We just played one Arvin. We can throw down that stone and end the turn. And now our opponent, even though they technically have a more consistent early game with Arceus V-Star, are in a position where my board's set up. I've done all that I need to do. Now it's just a matter of, can I get my attacks off? And the big question is really going to be, can I get the attacks off before my opponent gets too far in front? I'd really like them to take a single prize knockout here, but there is every chance that they actually get a KO on the Entei, although to be fair, since they have used Jacques, it is unlikely that they can use Boss's Orders or another Gusting card. Looks like they've got the Rare Candy into Charizard, and they've managed to do all of this without using Starbirth, which is the thing that I'm most concerned about, frankly. They'll attach a couple of energies across the board, and then no doubt they'll send this Arceus V-Star into the active and attack with Trinity Nova. It's a little bit awkward, because we're not necessarily in an actively strong position, but it's going to be okay, because our numbers are going to line up really, really well thanks to Delphox V. Now, obviously, we could theoretically have won this game with a Mawile. If we Mawile, bring up the Mew into the active, and they have no switch cards, no switch, no escape rope, then there's every chance that we can just win the game by decking our opponent out. But I would much prefer be active in the way that we play the game if possible, so we're going to try and see if we can get some nice numbers on these Charizards. But it's going to be difficult. They've got a very, very strong board set up on their side of the field. They don't have much search from here on out, so an Iono could potentially be disruptive. But they've got all the cards, all the attackers that they need, which I think is ultimately the only thing that really matters. They're going to retreat into Mew after grabbing a Super Rod with the Mysterious Tail, and then they will probably attack us with Arceus V-Star, I would imagine. There's no way that we knock out any of these Pokemon this turn, so it's just a matter of whether or not we can get a strong turn off of this Iono. Now, we do have the V-Star power of our Forest Sealstone to use, so we definitely have a Pidgeot EX in play at a minimum. I'm going to promote the Entei V here. I think it's realistically the only choice for us, considering it's going to be a solid attacker and it also has that fleet-footed ability. There could be an argument to put the Pidgey in the active, though. If we are going to evolve it, Pidgey EX has free retreat, so we may as well grab some value out of that. So we'll use our stone, and we'll go searching for that rare candy. We could potentially have used an Arvin there to search out a rare candy and a tool as well, but I would much rather play the Iono here. We're going to draw 6 fresh cards. I don't particularly like the cards that I have in hand, and if we draw into any cards that give us access to a Charizard, we are looking good, and wouldn't you know it, we have a relatively strong hand here. We've got an Ultra Ball, I can get rid of the Battle Pass, and a basic Fire Energy to grab out a Charizard EX. Then I can use Pidgeot EX's Quick Search to search for a second rare candy, and we'll then be able to evolve our Charizard, and then start accelerating energy. Now, the question is, do we want to put the Charizard into the active, or do we want to attack with Entei? We know that the Entei can be knocked out, the Charizard cannot. So maybe we actually choose to put the Entei in the active here and attack into this Arceus. It's going to do two things for us. Firstly, we're going to put down a pretty solid chunk of damage onto this Arceus V. It's a pretty solid attack with, 160. So that's perfect numbers. 160 into this Arceus V-Star. That leaves it with 120 HP left on it. Then, we can hope that our opponent gets a little bit greedy and searches out a choice spell off of their town store, and I feel like that's what they're going to do. If they do that, they'll knock out the Entei V, which would seem like a bad thing for us, but from there, we can actually use our Pidgeot to search out boss's orders and hit into a Charizard EX on the bench. That does two things for us. First of all, it again stops our opponent from taking any 2-prize knockouts next turn, which is fantastic, but it also lines us up for at some point down the track, if we can get ourselves an attack with Delphox, we'll potentially take 4 prizes in a turn. So realistically, we only need to take a knockout on one Charizard EX to win this game if we can set these numbers up. And it looks like it's all panning out the way that we wanted it to. Entei being knocked out by the Arceus means that they go down to 3 prize cards remaining, and we will now deal a ton of damage into a Charizard EX. Not enough to knock it out, but enough to create some real drama. And look at this, we've also drawn into a boss's order, so we don't even need to search it out here. We do have the Delphox in the deck. Let's just double check how many energies we have. We only have 1. So this is a little bit of a scary situation. We have 1 energy in the deck, 1 in hand, plus a Super Rod. That means 5 total energies left to work with for the entire game, which is not perfect, but it's definitely workable. It means that we can, at the very least, attack with a Charizard and a Delphox. So we'll see whether we can get it to happen here. I'm going to Pidgeot EX for a Charmeleon, just in case our opponent tries to do any shenanigans. It'll make us a little bit easier for us to evolve into a Charizard next turn. I'm also going to attach one of those... Oh, I probably shouldn't. I'll hold on to it. I was going to attach to the Charmeleon. I don't think it matters too much. We'll hold off here, and hopefully we can get some value. Now, we've put ourselves in a position now where an attack with Delphox will take 4 prize cards. We'll need the Arceus V-Star to be on the bench. The Charizard EX does have that terrestrial text, which means that it can't be damaged on the bench. So the Charizard will need to be in the active. Our top thing that could happen here is that our opponent attacks into this Charizard and just leaves us in this position. That would be really, really strong, especially if they then get the KO on one of our 2-prize Pokemon. So if they get a KO on a 2-prize Pokemon from there, we'll actually just be able to straight up return knockout a Charizard EX as our opponent goes down to 5 prize cards. But potentially we could be in a little bit of strife here. I am going to go for the play if we get the chance. And I think we're going to get the chance here. Let's just double check. We'll town store and just make sure that we have all the things that we need. We've got an energy, we've got the Charizard EX, which we're going to need, we've got the Delphox V, which we're going to need, we've got all of the cards required. So now we just need to make sure that we do this in the right order. And I think we actually need to use every single card in our hand here to get this to work. Because we've got the Pidgeot, we've got the Ultra Ball, we can search for 2 Pokemon, but the big thing that we need is the energy. So we're going to Super Rod in 3 energies into the deck. That means there are now 4 energies in the deck for us. 5 in total. Then I'm going to Ultra Ball. We're going to Ultra Ball away the Arvin and the Choice Belt, because we don't need those 2 cards right now. I'm going to grab one of Charizard or Delphox. Doesn't really matter which, just as long as we don't evolve the Charizard. We'll just double check here. We do have candies to be able to evolve another Charmander if we need to. Then we're going to quick search. We're going to grab the Delphox V. Just double check here. We've actually got Nest Ball. We can grab the Nest Ball here and thin an unusable card from our deck. We'll play the Nest Ball and grab the Delphox. We can put that onto the bench, and now we can evolve into Charizard EX. We can use that ability, Infernal Rain, to search for 3 fire energies and attach them to our Delphox V. Then the single energy that's in my hand is probably going to have to go on the undamaged Charizard. We'll then retreat into the Delphox, and from here we can Magical Fire, attacking into the active 120 damage, and then placing 120 on the Arceus V-Star for some perfect numbers. That's a 4-prize turn. We've gone from being 3 prizes down to actually being in front in this game, which is, to be brutally honest, an incredible thing. The fact that Charizard can do this is one of the reasons why it is such a strong deck in Standard at the moment. Now, it is a little bit awkward, because if our opponent does not knock out our Delphox V, if they instead knock out the Charmander on the bench, then we might be in a bit of strife here, but we might have been given a chance by the fact that our opponent has just evolved into a Pidgeot EX. Pidgeot has 280 HP, so at the moment, if our opponent takes a prize at all, we will be able to take a knockout on that Pidgeot. And if they use Boss on the Charmander, our hand will remain the same, and I think we actually win the game if that's the case. And they have gone for the Charmander here, so I think we actually win this game with the Ultra Ball. Presuming that Lumineon is in the deck, we can use Lumineon to search for Boss, we can use the Pidgeot to search for the Energy, Boss the Pidgeot EX into the active, attach to Charizard, and then attack for 300 damage and win the game. And you can see how quickly Delphox would swing a turn here. Looks like it is going to be the way that we go. The only thing that I don't know is if we have access to Lumineon. If we don't have Lumineon, then we can't make that play. So we'll go for a quick scout with the town store, just to double check. There is the Lumineon. We've got a Boss, and we have that 1 Fire Energy left. So all we need to do now, Ultra Ball away 2 cards, grab the Lumineon, we can bench that down here, search out the boss's orders, and it's just a matter of fighting against Pokemon TCG Live now to get this to happen as quickly as possible. Let's quick search out a basic Fire Energy right from the very end of the deck. We will attach that to our Charizard, we'll retreat into the Charizard EX, we'll boss out the Pidgeot, and we will take 2 prizes to win the game with Burning Darkness. That's incredible. I'm actually very surprised that we managed to do that. The Delphox really came in clutch. I mean, we could have simply won by using Mawile, as the Brazilian champion did, but you know what? It's fine. I'm happy to take all 6 prize cards and win regardless. I think it's pretty strong. So there you have it. Charizard EX is pretty strong. I just wanted to say to the people that are watching all the way to the end, thank you so much for sticking with me, even though I haven't been putting up anything on YouTube for about 60 days now, 2 months. I've had some significant stuff going on in life and just needed to take a break, but hopefully I will be back with a few more videos relatively soon. If you aren't already, and this is the first time you've watched, and you've watched all the way to the end, thanks very much. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, guys. If you're still watching, please like the video, and I'll see you all next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.